Bleacher Report released a list of players with the most to prove in 2022, so let's take a look at it. Starting off is Giants catcher Joey Bart. As the heir apparent to Buster Posey, he's going to have some high expectations. He's the number 2 prospect in the Giants system, number 16 in all of baseball, so a lot of eyes are going to be on him next year. Up next is Phillies third baseman Alec Bohm. In 2020, he burst onto the scene with a strong rookie year, but 2021 was more of a year to forget with offensive and defensive troubles. He had -3 outs above average on the year, placing him in the 17th percentile in Major League Baseball. He's got to improve on both sides of the ball for 2022. Up next is Padres starter Mike Clevinger, who missed the entire year recovering from Tommy John surgery. The Padres really did not live up to expectations this year, ended up missing out on the playoffs, so getting a guy like Clevinger back in their rotation could be a huge help for 2022 if he can return to form. Up next is Yankees outfielder Joey Gallo, and while he did struggle after being traded, I don't really know what else Gallo has to prove. He's a 3 true outcomes player, that's what he's been his entire career, but on top of that, he plays gold glove defense. If there's anyone on the Yankees that needs to prove something for 2022, it's someone like Gleyber Torres. Up next is Mariners outfielder Jared Kelenic. Now, the Mariners almost made the playoffs last year. They hung in until the very end, and they have a crop of very young and good players that will be making their debuts very soon. Kelenic's one of them. If he has a breakout year in 2022, it could spell a very good future for the Mariners. Up next is Dodgers second baseman Gavin Lux. Now, Lux is another guy that probably had a 2021 to forget. He was average, but not really great. And as the guy that's going to be taking over for former World Series MVP Corey Seager, he's definitely got a lot to prove in 2022. Dansby Swanson doesn't necessarily have a lot to prove as a player, but it is his contract year. He's a free agent after 2022. And with a lot of shortstops getting big money contracts, Swanson's got to prove that he deserves something like that too. Noah Syndergaard is definitely a guy with a lot to prove. He has thrown 2 innings in the past 2 years as he battled with injuries, but if he can come back and put together a solid season, he could be the starting pitcher that the Angels needed for a long time. On the flip side, Justin Verlander is not a guy that has to prove anything to Major League Baseball. Even if he stinks for the next 2 years, he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know he's coming back from the same injury as Syndergaard, but he's got nothing left to prove. And finally, Christian Yelich is definitely a guy that has a lot to prove in 2022. He has suffered a big drop in production from a 174 WRC plus in 2019 down to 101 in 2021. He's got to have a bounce-back year and prove that he is still the MVP caliber player that he can be. Tell me who else you think has a lot to prove in 2022 in the comments.